Two Republicans just killed the most aggressive property tax plan in Florida history. Not Democrats, not lobbyists, Republicans. And they did it before you ever got a chance to vote on the real thing. This is the story of what was on the table, who took it off, and what you can still do about it before November 3rd. Before we get into it, I've built a page where you can look up your specific representative and see exactly how they voted. The link is in the description. We'll come back to that at the end. Let's go. On May 27th, Governor Ron DeSantis stood up in Tampa and put something on paper that no Florida governor has ever put on paper. A plan to eliminate homestead property taxes completely for every Florida homeowner. He called it Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes. And he called every Florida legislator back to Tallahassee for a special session to vote on just it. The plan started with an immediate jump. Raise the homestead exemption from $50,000 to $250,000 right away. And that gets 60% of Florida homeowners to zero. Then the legislature gets commanded by law to build a schedule that finishes the job, pushing the exemption to $500,000, getting 92% of homeowners to zero, and then to full elimination for everybody. Every penny, forever. That was the destination. The question was whether Tallahassee would actually get you there. Here's why that destination matters. The typical Florida homeowner with a homestead exemption pays around $3,000 a year in property taxes. That is the documented average. I know many of us pay a lot more. Anyway, if you have a mortgage, that's roughly $250 a month sitting in escrow, collected by your lender, paid to the government before you ever see it. Every step toward elimination is money that starts coming back. At the full elimination, for the first time, you'd actually own your home. Because right now, if they can take your house for not paying your property taxes, you don't own it. You're renting it from the government. And here's the part that made DeSantis' plan stand apart. Of the 7 bills filed before the special session, every single one left school taxes in place. Except one. State Representative Ryan Chamberlain from Bellevue put forward a plan that would have wiped out all property taxes, school taxes included. But his replacement plan came with a 5% transaction fee at closing, meaning a $300,000 home purchase carried a $15,000 fee on top of the purchase price. Plus, there was a proposed sales tax increase that added 3% to cover the gaps. When I covered that bill, that fee was wildly unpopular with my audience, and the legislature agreed. It never got a committee vote, couldn't even get a hearing in the Senate. They looked at that $15,000 hit at closing, and they just walked away. DeSantis' plan was different. No transaction fee, no sales tax hike. He wanted school taxes gone too. But here's the reality. Nobody has proposed a credible mechanism to replace the school funding. FAFO has gone into city and county budgets and found billions in waste. School districts haven't been audited that way yet. We may all suspect the waste is there. I know I do. But right now, nobody has the receipts. And some replacement revenue is going to be needed before you can eliminate school taxes responsibly, even if there's plenty of waste found. That's the real reason the carve-out happened. Not because Trumbull and Garrison don't want you to win, because nobody, including DeSantis, put a funded plan on the table for the school portion. That's a fight that still needs to be had. That's what we're going to have to be pushing for next year if I have my way. That is what was on the table. Now, let me show you who took it away. Meet Senator J. Trumbull, Republican, Panama City. He is the next Senate president of Florida. On June 1st, in the Senate Appropriations Committee, Trumbull offered the amendment that carved out school taxes completely out of DeSantis' proposal. His reasoning? He couldn't support removing billions of dollars from public education. Here's what I don't dispute. The school funding problem is real, but Trumbull's amendment didn't solve it. It just made sure nobody had to. One amendment from the man about to run the Florida Senate, and the hardest part of the problem just got pushed to someone else's term. He didn't do it alone. Over in the House, Meet Representative Sam Garrison, Republican, Fleming Island. He is the next Speaker of the Florida House. Garrison led the identical carve-out on the House side, saying publicly that schools, unlike local governments, don't have the ability to be nimble and flexible, that they can't charge user fees to offset losses. He's not wrong about that either, but saying a problem is difficult is not the same as solving it. And the next House Speaker just made sure it stays difficult on your dime, at least for another session. So let's be precise about what happened here. The two most powerful Republicans in line to lead the Florida legislature had a chance to say, we're going to figure out how to fund schools without putting a lien on your home. And they chose not to. They carved it out, called it responsible, and handed the problem to the next legislature, which they will run. Unbelievable. They didn't lose a vote. They weren't outnumbered. They made a choice. And until someone builds the replacement funding mechanism they refuse to build, school taxes stay on your bill. That's 40 to 50% of your property tax going nowhere. The Democrats didn't do this. Republicans did. And the two Republicans who did it are about to be the most powerful people in Tallahassee. Now, I want to show you something that should make you furious, because DeSantis didn't just propose elimination. He sent his CFO into local budgets to find the money. Some of what Ingaglia found is not in dispute. The hologram is real. The genderbread person is real. The $1.9 million in DEI arts grants is real. What is disputed is whether that total adds up to a genuine replacement for lost tax revenue, or whether FAFO is doing math that flatters a political argument. The first thing politicians always say when you talk about eliminating property taxes is we can't afford it. Fire stations will close, police will disappear, schools will fall apart. They've been running that play for years, and it works every single time because nobody ever looked at the books until now. DeSantis put CFO Blaise Ingaglia in charge of what they're calling FAFO, Florida Agency for Fiscal Oversight. And yeah, the name means exactly what you think it does. Ingaglia has been crisscrossing Florida since July 2025, walking into city and county budgets and finding out where your money is actually going. The running total as of this month is over $3.7 billion in excessive and wasteful spending across Florida, and he's still going. You want the receipts? Here they are. You can weigh them yourself. Broward County, $890,000 on DEI training since 2020, including something called the genderbread person. That's in the official state audit. I'm not making it up. That is a line item. Hillsborough County, $572,000 for an outside contract teaching county employees about unconscious bias. Miami-Dade, in the 2025-2026 budget year alone, FAO flagged $470 million in excessive spending. Not over 6 years, 1 year. And that was up from $302 million the year before, meaning after they got caught, they spent more. Jacksonville, $75,000 for a hologram of Mayor Donna Deegan greeting travelers at the airport. Not police, not fire, not roads, a hologram of herself. Plus, $1.9 million in grants to DEI-focused art groups. The mayor said it wasn't wasteful. DeSantis held a press conference in the airport meeting standing next to that hologram. Funny stuff. Now, here's the math that dismantles the whole "we can't afford it" argument. And I'm using Orange County's own budget document, not a back-of-the-napkin estimate. Orange County, Florida, home to Orlando, where a lot of you watching this live. Their fiscal year 2025-2026 adopted budget shows countywide property tax revenue of $1.042 billion. That's the number straight from their own books. FAFO flagged $300 million in wasteful spending in that same budget year. That's nearly 30 cents of waste for every dollar of property tax collected. When Ingaglia held his first press conference in Orange County in September 2025, flagging $190 million in waste, Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings went in front of the cameras and called it fuzzy math, said the numbers weren't real, said Ngalia didn't know what he was talking about. So FAFO came back. They flagged $300 million for the new budget year, up from the $190 million. The county disputes how they got there. FAFO's position is that this isn't a funding crisis, it's a spending problem. The counties say that's a political characterization, not an audit. That dispute is real. What's harder to dispute is the gap between what they claim they can't afford to lose and what they've been spending it on. FAFO's argument is that the money is already there. They're not filling a hole, you're cutting waste. The county calls that fuzzy math. I'm going to dig into who's actually right on its own, because that's the whole ballgame. But here's what's not in dispute. The "we literally cannot afford any cut" line that politicians lead with, that doesn't survive contact with these numbers. Here's where the story takes a turn that every Florida resident needs to hear, because even the watered-down version that did pass tells you a lot about who's actually in your corner in Tallahassee and who isn't. On June 2nd, 2026, HJR 1F passed. House 75-26, Senate 30-9. It now goes to Florida voters on November 3rd and needs 60% to ratify. What passed is not elimination. Let me be direct with you about that. What passed raises the homestead exemption from $50,000 to $150,000 in 2027, then to $250,000 in 2028, but only on the non-school portion of your bill. The school taxes stay. That 40 to 50% that DeSantis wanted gone, it's still there. It is the biggest property tax step Florida homeowners have ever taken. It's not what was promised. Now, let me show you the vote. In the Senate, every single no vote was a Democrat. 9 of them voted against giving you even partial property tax cut. But here's what you didn't see coming. 3 Senate Democrats crossed party lines and voted yes. Mac Bernard out of West Palm Beach, Darrell Rusin out of St. Petersburg, Barbara Sharif out of Davie. Those 3 did the right thing by their constituents, and I'm going to give them credit for it. The House was a different story. The vote was 75-26. In the House, not a single Democrat voted yes, not one. But here's what's going to drive you nuts. 2 Republicans voted no, even on this watered-down version. In the Senate, Senator Nathan Boyles out of Milton and Senator Pat Manny out of Fort Walton Beach, both from the Panhandle, both Republicans, both elected by people who are getting crushed by property taxes every single year. And they voted no. Not on full elimination, not on DeSantis' original plan, on any relief at all. 0. Remember those names. And now I want to tell you about an organization you've probably never heard of, because that's exactly how they want it. The Florida League of Cities. They represent over 400 Florida cities. Those cities pay membership dues out of their city budgets. Those budgets are funded by your property taxes. So they're running a campaign called Florida Formula. You can look it up at flcities.com, using your own tax dollars to make sure you keep paying. They've built out shareable videos, talking points, ready-made scripts, and city-level data packets, all handed out to local officials across the state so they can go on record opposing your tax cut. They've armed 400 cities against you with your own money. I've already started seeing the ads on social media, the big media campaign to convince you to vote no. Why are they fighting this so hard? Because the waste lives inside those city budgets. The DEI programs, the holograms, the unconscious bias contracts, all of it goes away if this thing passes and the pressure continues. They don't have to win in November. They just have to stop 60% of voters from saying yes. That's their only target, and they already have a head start. Here's where I land on this. This is not the win I was hoping for. The school carve-out had a real justification. Nobody's built a funding mechanism to replace what schools would lose. That is true. But here's what's also true. The 2 men who made that carve-out are now the 2 most powerful people in the Florida legislature. They own that problem now. They didn't solve it. They made sure it lands on your bill until they decide to deal with it. No deadline, no replacement plan, no commitment to even build one. That's the fight that's still sitting on the table. And the people who put it there are the same people who now have to pick it up. What's on the November ballot is Amendment 3. It's not full elimination. You know that now. But it is the first time Florida homeowners have ever gotten a real vote on actually owning their property. Before you decide how you feel about it, I want you to do something. Read it. Understand what it does and what it doesn't do. Figure out what it means for your tax bill specifically, not your neighbors, not a hypothetical, yours. Then talk to people around you, your family, your friends, other Florida homeowners, because this affects all of them too. The Florida League of Cities has already built an army of 400 local officials armed with talking points and your tax dollars to shape how you vote. They're counting on you not doing your homework. Don't give them that. Go to the link in the description, look up your representative, see exactly how they voted on HJR 1F, then make up your own mind, not based on what a politician told you, not based on what a political committee paid to tell you, based on what you actually know. If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe. We track these bills, these votes, and these budget numbers all year long, so you're never the last one to find out. And leave a comment below. Do you think the school carve-out was a deal breaker? Or is getting the non-school portion on the ballot still a step worth taking? I want to know where you stand. This has been the Florida Real Estate Insider. I'm still Tom McNamara. See you in the next one.